Hello, my name is Omar Rampersad. It's Tuesday, May 1st, 2018. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about my experience in the system. I spent about 22 hours, it wasn't a full 24 hours from the time I was taken from my home and put through an arrest and arraignment process. It was less than 24 hours. Yesterday, I talked about my experience in the transport vehicle that was and very enclosed, no windows, all metal inside, very dark. Um, I'm not going to go through that again. So um, today, I'm going to talk about what happened after that. So what happened after that when we got to the destination? Which was a woman's holding cell because I was previously at the police station. So because they were holding me over for bail um, overnight, they um, they had to transport me to a woman's holding cell. This wasn't prison, but keep in mind these were holding cells in the police station. So and it's not very different from a prison cell. What it is, it's about an 8 by 6 room with a stainless steel cot, stainless steel toilet with a very very tiny sink that your hands could barely fit. I'm sure you saw scenes like this on TV. Well, it's exactly like that, a little bit smaller maybe, with steel bars for doors and the camera facing directly at you. So, of course, no privacy, absolutely no privacy. The heat was low, so it was cold. Of course, no coverings, just steel. And anyway, so I'm telling you, this is an experience that nobody in their right minds, especially innocent people, um, would want to go through. Nobody. Um, So anyway, so after being held in one of these cells, I was taken to another location, a woman's location, um, a woman's holding cell, and there were screams and yells from other people in there, older people off the street, nothing right in their heads. So of course, no sleep, um, and of course, no covering. There was no bed coverings or anything, just a steel bench. And then after that, we were taken to the court the next morning for, I mean, the court opened around 9. So we were on the road around 7, again in a wagon. But this time I had asked at the desk for the heat to be turned off, and they did turn off the heat. So it was cold, and this wagon was bigger. Well, maybe it seemed bigger, I'm not quite sure. Maybe because I was more alert because the heat was turned off and there was other people in there with me, and I wasn't in shock as I was the first time around. Um, but it was cold; it was not hot. Um, it seemed to be bigger. Maybe it was bigger. Anyways, so we were in court, and again another holding cell. And what's interesting in these holding cells, the rooms were big. There were two rooms. The first room was pretty big. But what's interesting about these holding cells here in Toronto, and I imagine in the whole country, is that there is one toilet for everybody in the room, and the the barrier is about 3 feet high, just a little bit above the toilet seat, one wall. So one wall is the wall of the room, and the other wall is beside the toilet seat, which is it comes up to your shoulders if you're sitting on the toilet, and that was it. There was no wall in front of you. There was no wall above you. There's no screen above you. There's no, of course, no door. So it's a pretty open space. You're open. It's open. So my comment on that is, of course, I wasn't able to go to the bathroom all day. I just couldn't go to the bathroom. Um, so I didn't drink a lot of liquids. You can ask for water, but I didn't drink, so I was dehydrated as well. And the heat had caused my foot to swell up. Anyway, so we went to the cell, and then I was transported to the other cell right above the court, waiting to be called. And they brought in some people, women, from prison who had actually gone to prison with prison outfits into the room. And there were about 15 people in the room, in a 12 by 12 room with one toilet, with a bench made of concrete, one bench that would seat maybe 6 people. And that was it. And the room held around 15 people at one point for more than 2 hours. Um, these women were, you know, prostitutes, drug addicts, um, and one was pregnant, 2 or 3 months pregnant. So they were sleeping on the floor, and the floor is really dirty. The toilet was really disgusting, the open toilet. This is in Toronto, folks, which was, I don't think I'll ever get over it, ever get over it. Not the dirty conditions, but the way the women were treated, and just stripping away all the privacy, having these women go to the bathroom in front of everybody else. Women who were going through their menstrual cycle, asking for protection from the guard, and attending to themselves in front of everybody else in Toronto, which is supposed to be, Toronto, Canada is supposed to be a land of human rights, and women are supposed to be treated um, equally and have all these rights. Um, like I said, I mean, if I didn't have as much training as I have behind me, not only book training, but I've had to go through a lot of emotional challenges that had that strengthened me to go through challenges on my own, um, and not crumble, other than from exhaustion, physical exhaustion. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's not so much what is done to you, not only what is done to you, I should say, that is torture. It's what you're made to observe that also is the same kind of torture, and sometimes could be even more painful than the emotional pain that's inflicted on you, because sometimes observing people going through pain is more painful than through it yourself. Um, I mean, I saw the And these are women who were in need. They were obviously in need of help, psychological help, physical help, financial help, emotional support. I didn't see that from my judgment. I didn't see any really criminal people in that cell. They were marginalized people, people who were living on the edge of society, Native Indians, people who are addicted to drugs, who would need help. They're not mentally ill. There was one really mentally ill person in there. Um, but even so, as human beings, they do have certain rights, like the right to privacy when you're going to the bathroom. Because the act of going to the bathroom in front of somebody is a dehumanizing one, a stranger. It's a dehumanizing one. It goes against your human rights. It's extremely dehumanizing. And to do it, if you get to the point where you do it without a second thought, it comes naturally to you, then it means that in your head, you have, well, not only in your head, but um, you have been dehumanized, or maybe you have, the person didn't realize that they had gotten down to that point where it's okay to go to the bathroom in front of somebody, a total stranger. They have been dehumanized and they internalized the dehumanization. They accepted it, which is not something that should happen to another human being. At least not in Canada, right? We are in Canada after all. There should not be covert trafficking of women and children. There should not be, people without human rights in Canada. At least this is the image of Canada that is portrayed. Um, that's the common portrayal. Let's say it's out there. It's accepted. It's almost as if we're living behind this protective barrier that we have this idea that we're protected. We have these human rights until you get to the other side of that protective barrier, and you realize that the picture that's been painted and the bubble that you've been living in is not a reflection of reality. It's not what happens in the system. It's not what um, it's not reality in the system. There's a lot of things to be fixed in the system, and a lot of that is coming from misogynistic attitudes. Women are victimized routinely, and I'm not saying men are not victimized. They are, and maybe equally so in different ways. But women are victimized in a certain way um, because they are women, simply because they are women. Men are victimized because they're a human being, and there are certain ways to victimize a human being and dehumanize the human being. But women are somehow considered to be subhuman in the system. At least that's the way I felt. It's almost as if you're not once you're charged, once you have that charge against you, automatically you don't have these rights, even before you go through due process and you go through a trial that determines whether you're guilty or not. The rights are taken away from you. You're treated as if you're guilty. The act of getting charged is almost equivalent to being found guilty, which I found astounding. It's astonishing. It was astonishing to me that the minute those cuffs came on my hands, that I was seen to be, perceived to be a guilty person and treated as one. There's a lot of failures weaknesses in the system, systemic ones, misogynistic ones that needs to be fixed. Talk to you another time.